If you're starting your seeds indoors, start with this. I'm going to be showing you how we plant our seeds indoors for the upcoming season. These are spring crops as we're currently entering spring, coming out of winter. But this setup works for all plants really. The first item that you're going to need is a seed starting tray. This I picked up from the local store, but you can find them pretty much in any place that sells seeds or landscaping material as well. This is a 36 seed starting tray, so we can split that up into 12, 12, and 12 and plant 3 different varieties of plants. When you open your seed starting tray, you may see these little peat moss discs. I don't use them, so I'm going to be getting rid of all of them. Now that we emptied the tray, we're left with a empty tray that looks like this. And the bottom looks like this as well. This is where your water will go. Now that being said, we're going to need to fill this up with soil. This is the seed starting mix that we're going to be using. It's by Miracle-Gro. It's called Seed Starting Potting Mix, and it's great for seeds that are just beginning and to raise these seeds into seedlings to plant outside. You can find alternatives in multiple other stores, or you can make your own potting mix using compost and fertilizers. Using the potting mix, we're going to be filling this tray up with soil from the bag. Once you've filled your tray with soil, you want to make sure that you can pat them down so that they're firm, and then the missing space you'll fill back up with more soil. Once your seed starting tray is filled with soil and packed down, you have 2 options. The first option is you can put your seeds in the soil and water after, or the second option, you can pre-water the tray from the bottom up and then put your seeds in afterwards. Since we're planting spring crops here, it's going to be mostly leafy greens that are going in this tray. We're going to split this tray up into 2 rows here, another 2, and then another 2. There's 6 in each row or column, and then that'll give us 12 for each plant. First we have here is blue curled Scotch kale, which is your regular kale variety that you may see in the store. This seed count has 300 in the packet, and it is a early spring crop and goes to midsummer. That's when you can direct sow them. We're going to sow them now so we can plant them in the early spring. The second crop we have is Swiss chard. This plant, Swiss chard, is another leafy green that's popular to grow in the spring and summer. It's a lot like kale, but you can use the stems like celery, and you can use them for other uses as well. So like again, this is another spring crop that you want to plant after frost, and they do get pretty tall. The third crop that we're going to plant is just your regular type of lettuce, Paris Island Cos romaine lettuce. This usually does grow heads, so it is a head growing lettuce, but you can also grow them for the small leafy greens here as shown. It is mostly a spring crop because lettuce likes colder weather and bolts in hot weather, so we'll get use out of it this spring and for a few weeks. These kale seeds are fairly small, so we're going to just break the ground a little bit, but you don't want to bury them too deep as they'll have trouble breaking the soil. For these kale seeds, you could put 2 to 3 seeds in each plant starting cell. You can later then cut the ones that you don't want and just leave one to grow. For the Swiss chard, you can actually just put 1 seed because in this 1 seed there's multiple plants that will break out. So I would just plant maybe 1 or 2 in each cell. When planting lettuce, I would plant 2 to 3 in each cell, just to give you the benefit of the doubt, and make sure that they are close to the soil. You don't need to bury them deep. Now that our seed tray is filled, we can then water. You don't want to water overhead when you're starting your seedlings. That can displace the seeds or even just make a mess. So we're going to fill the bottom up here with water, and the water will work its way up through the soil and germinate the seeds. Also, you don't need to fill this up all the way to the top with water. You can do maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, depending on how big your base is and how dry your soil is. So now that we've filled this tray up with water, now we'll wait a few hours and check back in and see that the water is all gone. Or you can check back in a few days and see when your seeds break the soil. Again, they may not need light for the first few days, so you can kind of just let this sit and rest. Some seeds do need some light to germinate, and in that case, you may want to use a grow light. But for this case, we can let this sit in the dark for about 2 to 3 days. And that's basically it. This process is pretty much universal to starting seedlings and growing your own food. If you have tomatoes and pepper seedlings, you may want to use a heat lamp on the bottom of the seed starting tray so that they germinate faster. But for spring crops and pretty much all other crops, this is how you start the seedlings. You can let them rest here, and once the water breaks and works its way up to the soil, the seeds will be germinated and be on their way.